a nation. History bears testament to those who have led a nation. From the early kings that united warring tribes to create some semblance of a nation, to those that have caught the spirit and essence of their people and turned it into the ingredients to forge empires. We have seen those who have risen to lead. Kings, queens, emperors, revolutionaries, generals, presidents and prime ministers. Each has sought to harness the power of a nation and with it govern it. Some seek stability, others glory and conquest, and others wish to make the nation great again. From Julius Caesar to Margaret Thatcher, from Cleopatra to JFK, from Queen Elizabeth to Winston Churchill, and from Wu Zetian to Barack Obama, we have witnessed leaders rise and fall. The great and the greedy, the peaceful and the pugilists, the builders and the bringers of destruction. The world has witnessed many leaders, but what if your favorite YouTubers found themselves installed as a leader of a nation, be it an existing one or a virgin nation state? How would they lead? What would change? What would remain? What would their key policies be? What would be the national anthem? Who would form their cabinet? How would they rule? Well, you are about to find out in HG Tudor's exciting new series, If I Ruled My World, where YouTubers hold the reins of power and you decide if you want them as your leader. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and welcome to If I Ruled My World, where the reins of power are handed to particular YouTubers, and we get to hear about the nation that they're going to create and lead. And today, I'm delighted that Trevor MC is joining me. Hello, Trevor.
Hi, thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Not at all. Not at all. Very pleased to have you here. Let's get straight down to business. As Prime Minister, President, the grand fromage of this new nation, what is the name of your country?
Utopia.
Utopia. Okay, well, that's setting the bar pretty high already. So we're going to see if Trevor's utopia is that. I have a sneaking suspicion it'll be utopia for some and a nightmare for others. But we'll get we'll get into that. Okay. What's the capital of Utopia, Trevor?
Trevor's Town.
Trevor's Town.
Yes.
Excellent. No need to ask why it's called that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Utopia.
Exactly. Now, what would your seat of power be?
Well, I'm in charge of finance. Just to let you know that if you look at the globe now, so what I've basically done is I have commandeered Australia and I've renamed it Utopia. And the reason why I've chosen Australia is because it's away from people. And anyone coming to my country in a boat hopefully will be eaten by sharks or by something in the sea that's dangerous. No one will be able to get to my country.
Okay. Why not go even further, sort of like Fiji or something that's even further apart?
I've been there, it's too hot.
I've been there, it's too hot. As a redhead, yes, exactly.
Exactly.
You just went bright red and that's no good. Okay.
Well, exactly, because I've taken this quite serious, and I've picked a country where I can deal with the sun, the hot, the beaches. It's got bonsai beach, it's got everything, but it's utopia. So it's away from things. It's going to be the most sought after place in the world. There's a line. There's millions of people wanting to come to immigrate, and there's a queue. Prince Harry's at the back of the queue. He's not allowed in.
Okay. So in essence, Australia has been commandeered by you, has been renamed as Utopia. Trevor's Town has been. Is Trevor's Town? Is it created anew, or has Sydney or Melbourne become a new capital, or?
Well, I've taken Sydney. I've taken Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Sydney has become Trevor's Town. Fair enough. What's the national anthem?
Well, you know what? I've been right through all different music systems, and I've been trying to find something which suits it. And I was going to have the Take That Rule the World, so I'm going to stick with Take That Rule the World.
Rule the world.
Yeah. Okay. Why not?
Yeah. Well, that certainly fits with what this is all about.
Yeah.
With the national anthem, Trevor, would that just be played at state occasions in Utopia? Would it be blaring out from every street corner on a regular basis?
It would be played at the start of all sporting events. It would be played at the night of the proms. You would have to know it word for word to enter the country. If you wanted to emigrate, you need to know it. There would be a list of questions that you need to pass in order to get citizenship. And I want everyone to fall under the one banner. If you don't know it, you don't get kicked out, but you have to go and learn it, and you have to pass. A bit like trying to get a passport. If you don't fit the criteria, then you don't get in.
Okay, so knowing the words to the national anthem is part of the admissions test for coming to Utopia.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Are they expected to sing it, or can they just write it out?
Whatever they want. There's no criteria as long as they can prove to our officials, our recognized officials, that they know it. Then whether they sing it or whether they write it down, it's the same.
Okay. What's the national dish of Utopia?
Well, I've looked at this. I'm going to call it chicken manata, which is my own dish, actually. It's a bit like chicken Portuguese. It's like a roast chicken done in the oven, but there's also like tinned tomatoes, which flavor the meat with grated cheese and some Parmesan. So it's called my own name, chicken manata.
Sounds jolly tasty. So is that ordinarily your signature dish?
No, it's not. Basically, back in this is crazy. Back in 1996, I was stuck in the Romeo Towers on the borders of Ireland, looking down on certain nasty people's houses, and we ran out of food, and that was the only food we had left. So I designed that dish.
Ordinarily, when you think of running out of food, you think you're left with two rather stale digestive biscuits and a bag of lentils. So the fact that you've got chicken and Parmesan and tomatoes and so on, it doesn't really evoke images of hardship.
No, well, it wasn't. So basically, every week we would get a call, and we'd call down to where the helicopters were, and we'd put in a ration indent, and we would eat like kings up there, if I'm honest. So, but when you're 6 men and none of you are married, and you live in camp, none of you can cook, clearly all the bread went, all the ham went, all the bits, and all the ordinary, but it's just stuff in the freezer left. So that's what we.
I see. So it's a little bit like an episode of was it like MasterChef or something, where here are your ingredients, you've got to come up with something.
100%.
Okay, so that's the origins of the national dish. So I suppose the national dish then is representative of ingenuity and essentially making the best of what you've got.
That's not how I looked at it, but your words are better than mine, so I like that. Yeah.
Well, no, you tell me. It's your country. You tell me how you looked at it then.
I looked at it like, what can you make with not much money and just knock something up, and something which looks nice, can be well presented. And I thought, why not go for that? Chicken manata. I just thought,
Okay. What's your national animal?
Chimpanzee.
Okay, explain to me why it's the chimpanzee.
Right, right. We had chimpanzees. So say out in obviously it's utopia. So we have our jungles. So if you wander off the beaten off track, so we want to keep people in the right areas, and we want to send out a message that if you wander off into the midst of the jungles, I mean, we've got animals that'll beat you to death and use you as meat. So basically, it's to keep people in line, and it's to stop. If I go back to many years ago in the jungles of Sierra Leone, when my unit was captured by the West Side Boys, had we have had chimpanzees in that jungle, they would have beat the West Side Boys to death. So basically, I want to have a national animal that does not take any nonsense and will deal with those that. It's also a place where I could dump prisoners that did heinous crimes. Just dump them in the jungle and let the chimpanzees deal with them.
I know when Terry Pratchett created his Discworld series, of course, there was the orangutan, which was the library, and you were never allowed to call him a monkey, or he would quite literally lose his shit and beat the crap out of you. So I suppose we're going down that route with the chimpanzee keeping order. Yeah. What would you as leader, Trevor, say, though, if someone to say, how interesting that the national animal of Utopia is basically going to wank like a chimp and throw shit at you?
Well, basically, it's one of those things where don't shit on someone else's, don't shit in your own doorstep, basically, isn't it? So stay out of the jungle.
Okay.
I wanted to create a country, which obviously Utopia, where people that committed heinous crimes weren't a burden on the taxpayer. We just threw them to the chimpanzees.
Threw them to the chimpanzees who tore them apart limb from limb.
Yeah.
What a way to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it would also send a strong message out to people not to break the law.
Well, basically would say, if you get up to monkey business, you'll find yourself involved in some monkey business.
Exactly. Do you like how this is going? I mean,
it's a very neat solution. It's a very neat solution. Chimpanzee justice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
There we are.
Yes. Kangaroo court, but with a chimpanzee.
Yeah, exactly. And no funky gibbon inside. So, yeah. Absolutely. Now, let's move on. It's warming up, really, with these chimpanzees getting amongst things on a national basis. Tell me about your flag. What's the flag of Utopia?
My flag is the king of the jungle. And in a way, I'm going to show you my flag.
Yep.
This is my flag. Once this is over, it's going on my wall, by the way.
Yep. Ah. It's pretty regal.
Isn't it just the king of the jungle will rip you apart? That sends a clear message out to anyone coming to your country that this guy means the business. Now that is, you can really see it.
It is. It's a good picture.
There we go.
Yeah,
that is
noble, embodies strength.
Yep.
Why did you decide, given that the chimpanzees are the one that are going to be administering the justice, why are we not seeing a chimp on the flag?
Well, the thing is, we can't put a crown on a chimpanzee, and a lion is more fierce. So lions, as you said, more regal. It's got the crown. It sits there. It just overlooks everything. And the lion's like the heart of a lion, the heart of a lion for Utopia. So that's why I chose that.
Okay. That makes sense. So we have the flag with the lion, king of the jungle, looking regal with his crown, etc. Certainly is a noble image that you have there. What's going to be the national motto of Utopia?
You reap what you sow.
Reap what you sow.
Exactly. Okay. I know we're starting to sound like Sarah Hussein in the 80s, isn't it? But it's not really. Everyone.
Well, I mean, you reap what you sow can be taken in lots of different directions, can't it?
Yeah.
If you're good to people, you reap the response whereby they're well disposed towards you and they exhibit gratitude. You take it in a literal sense. You sow the seed and therefore the crops grow. And if you misbehave, then you might face retribution with a frenzied chimp ripping your arm off.
Well, that's where I was going with this. You reap what you sow has so many different angles coming off it. You know, I mean, basically toe the line, be nice to others, and others will be nice to you. If you're an arsehole, you're going to get thrown to the chimpanzees. But basically, and there would be a kangaroo court. You wouldn't just get thrown out to the jungle. There would be a jury system in place to make sure that you had a fair trial.
Would that be the chimp? Would that be the Chimps Tea Party? That jury?
You could look at it that way, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, with this national motto, "You reap what you sow," which has various connotations, so it's multi-purpose. Where do we see that? Is it emblazoned on public buildings? Is it in children's textbooks? Where do we see it?
You would see it, right? Engraved in granite above church doors, military buildings, government buildings, above schools, above libraries. So, it's something that you would see. It would be there. Look, beautifully done. And you couldn't miss it. It would be everywhere. It would be in government books. You would have that crest on government headed paper with that below it. It would look really, really nice. I think, it would be something that everyone would know. I mean, when a kid first was born, he wouldn't say mama or dad. He'd be like, what you saw? It'd be ingrained everywhere.
Well, that's certain. The indoctrination from an early juncture is to be favoured. Would you tattoo it on the foreheads of offenders before throwing them to the chimps?
No, because we wouldn't want that ink causing harm to the chimpanzees, would we?
Okay, all right then. Well, perhaps tying it on around their foreheads in a bandana then.
We could, we could do something like that. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it. I hadn't been that vindictive towards them.
You've not been that vindictive towards them by throwing them to chimpanzees that'll tear them apart. No, I agree. You've not been vindictive towards them at all.
But you see, you're looking at this at a different point. I'm looking at this, Freddie. Molesters, rapists, murderers, they're the ones that go to chimpanzees. Those were the most heinous crimes, I said. Petty thieves and things would just go to an ordinary jail and go through it that way. But those that have done heinous crimes and found guilty of heinous crimes go to the jungle with the chimpanzees. Everyone else will do a proper custodial sentence in the right way and be released back to society, hopefully better. But
okay. So you would look for there to be some rehabilitation of certain individuals.
Oh, of course, yeah, and yeah. Utopia is a place where people want to go, and at the end of the day, society is filled with so many different characters. Those that steal and do things and do petty crimes, we can rehabilitate them and put them out in society. But I also want our children and our grandparents. I want our mothers and our sisters and our brothers and our aunts. I want them to feel safe, knowing that people will not carry out the crimes to hurt them over fear of going to the jungle. So I want to keep people safe. I don't want to throw people to the jungle, but it's there as an option. It's a bit like being in America: electric chair, gas needle, and they will do that. Utopia will be a place where you have the most heinous death, but only for the most heinous crimes.
Okay, so let's explore some of those crimes. So murder,
yep, jungle.
Okay, rape,
jungle. Chimpanzees rip it apart.
Okay, terrorism,
jungle.
Okay, armed robbery.
We can try and rehabilitate you. If it fails, jungle.
Okay,
you only get one shot at. We will put you through maybe a £100,000 rehabilitation practice for that. If it fails, you only get one shot at it. If it fails, jungle.
Okay. Domestic violence.
Try rehabilitation, and if that fails, jungle.
Okay. How about riot?
Rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation. Okay.
Yeah.
What about one of the most awful crimes that clearly can ever be committed, going on social media and suggesting that somebody burns down a building with people in it so that you get sent to prison for 15 months?
I don't think posting words online should result in me having you killed, but throwing you in the jungle. But things like that, I would have something in place where if you can't be trusted on social media, then you get an immediate ban. You get an immediate ban from all social media. And if you try and circumnavigate that, jungle.
Right. Okay. So you get kicked off social media.
Yeah.
Try and find your way around it. Welcome to the jungle.
Exactly. I mean, I'm willing to give people the knowledge to move forward, but if they're repeat offenders, then, you know, if you go and steal something, rehabilitation. If you do it again, rehabilitation. If you do it again, rehabilitation. If you do it again, fuck it, jungle. I mean, that's just, you can't be dealt with. So basically, I'm giving people enough rope to hang themselves, and if they want to hang themselves, it'll be off a tree with a chimpanzee. Does that make sense?
So would it be fair to say then that with you've got some which it's off to the jungle straight away for the more heinous crimes that have occurred, and
Yep.
then the less serious ones, you're given one, possibly more chances to get your shit together. But
Yep.
ultimately, whatever it is that you do that is a criminal offence, if in the end you will not bend to becoming a obedient citizen vis-a-vis these crimes, you'll find yourself in the jungle.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, understood. What's your national day, Trevor, and when will it be?
It's the 4th of April,
Okay. What's the significance of that?
my birthday.
Ah, right. Well, you all now know when to send your birthday wishes to Trevor. It's 4th of April. So you've got a bit of time to save up for some gifts for him, some nice grooming products, etc. Or maybe another framed picture of Utopia's flag, or possibly some chimpanzee-related nonsense. And what would the National Day be called?
Well, just straightforward, wouldn't it? The National Day of Giving. So what I had already put in place is that on the 4th of April, every single year, every citizen gives a day's wages into the finance minister, and that money is used to help the sick lame. Not lazy, don't help lazy. Those that are injured, whether it be whether someone's fallen on hard times, that money is collated and it's given out to those that need it. So 4th of April, National Giving Day, everyone gives in a day's wages that day, the whole country, and we help those that don't have as much as the rest of us.
Okay. And is it compulsory? Everybody has to give?
It's compulsory.
It's compulsory. Okay. What's the mechanism for that to happen? Is it an automatic deduction from people?
It's an automatic deduction from your wages. It's a bit like paying your national insurance. So it would come out of your wages once a year. Now, believe it or not, I got this idea from the British military, because did you know that in the British military, when you join up, you join your army, you join your unit, a day's wages comes out of your wages every single year, and it goes to the regimental association to help those that are injured in your unit.
Yeah, well, that's a sound principle indeed. So that's the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
Most laudable. How would you go about enforcing it for somebody who's self-employed?
Well, we would just tax them on it. It would be a tax that comes out of their wages. We would just take it from them. They wouldn't have a choice if they didn't. If they were caught doing fraudulent activity, which people do, and they do fraudulent activity.
To the jungle.
Yeah, no, not straight away. If someone's caught doing fraudulent activity and deliberately trying to deceive the government or deceive, you're taking away from people that need it, then you would receive a fine. And if you didn't pay the fine and you did it again, jungle.
Okay. National Day of Giving. Well, that's certainly an altruistic mechanism and a useful concept to associate with the National Day. Now, we're going to turn to some of the policies that Utopia has. Naturally, we're going to hear about your foundation policies much later. But here, I'm going to give you an option. You have to choose one of them. There's no ducking out of it, no caveats. And so you need to choose the one which is closest to what you would deem as leader. So we're going to start with your foreign policy, Trevor.
Okay.
Are you just going to defend Utopia? Or will you aid allied nations and defend Utopia? Would you take on a world policing role for Utopia? Would Utopia adopt an expansionist approach? For instance, it's got a claim over, let's say, part of New Zealand that it wants to take back, so it will do so. Or will it be expansionist with regard to historical territories and getting its hand on some resources? Or is the policy quite simply, you've looked at me funny, I'm coming to invade you?
Well, I've looked at this in great detail. I mean, trust me, I've been through, okay, what can I do here? So I've taken the stance where I'm just going to aid all my allies and defend utopia.
Okay.
Now, I don't need to expand into other territories for their resources, because I already know that utopia has got loads of gold mines. We've got gold mines, we've got oil, we've got our own resources. We are self-sufficient, so I don't need to expand. This is why I told you at the start of this, there's thousands of people waiting to get into utopia, and we take them on a one-to-one basis. What can you add? If you're coming to this country, what can you add to this nation, or are you coming to take stuff from us? So every single person that wants to come here is taken on a one-by-one basis, and we look after our own. We will also work with New Zealand, if it's still called, we're called Utopia. I'll keep them as New Zealand, and we will work and we will try and defend them as well.
So you see, they'd be an ally.
I would use New Zealand as an ally, but we don't need external resources, and we're utopia. We have exactly what we need, and we're going to, and we just build and build and build and build. We probably have about now, since I took over, an extra couple of aircraft carriers. And and our nuclear weapons, which we will not fire. We'll talk about that later.
Well,
but,
we're going to come straight on to that.
But we're strong, we're tough. You reap what you sow.
Understood. So let's turn to the nuclear. Let's turn to the nuclear missiles. And is it the case that you don't have any, or you do, but they're only going to be used as a deterrent? But you're not going to let people that's the case. That's kept quiet. Will you only use them in retaliation to other people using nuclear weapons against utopia, or is your attitude, hell yeah, let's nuke them?
Well, first of all, we do have nuclear weapons.
Yep.
Second of all, our stance in foreign policy will stay the same. We're going to defend our country from any possible strikes. We would not let a strike happen to us. We would definitely fire nuclear weapons at a place where we thought was going to fire us. We would strike first. Strike first, or risk losing everything.
So in effect, it's hell yeah, let's nuke on the basis that you, not just randomly, but there's a threat, so you'll utilize them. Okay.
But we've also got something which, will we go into this? Right, so we have gold mines, as you know. We have gold mines in utopia.
Yep.
Some of those gold mines over the years, without outside knowledge, there's bunkers in there to keep our citizens safe from possible nuclear strikes, disguised as gold mines, believe it or not. So we could, we've already got things in place for the inevitable. We would never ever want to use nuclear weapons, but if provoked, what have I got here? We will tolerate until pushed. There we go.
You will tolerate until pushed.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. What about press freedom? So the options are no state interference whatsoever, interference only on the grounds of national security, interference on whatever the government deems sensitive results in interference, or the media is state-owned.
Only interfere if it's to do with national security. But there's a caveat on that. The caveat would move closer to no state interference. The caveat would be, I would not, now, as the leader, I would not allow the country, the nation, to interfere in the mainstream media to hide things from the public that the public believe to see. And I would not let the government brush over that by calling it national security. So there'll be a common sense approach in the cabinet where we would look at that. And if we believe that the government are hiding things and covering it by using the caveat national security, then that I, as the leader, would overrule that. And I believe that the mainstream media deserve the right to report to the citizens exactly what's going on. So that would keep ministers, that would keep my ministers and cabinet in line not to use government assets for their own personal interests.
So there'd be a fairly high bar on what constitutes national security.
Yes, and that would need to be cleared by a cabinet meeting. For instance, ministers that left top secret information on buses, on trains, at bus stops, the public have a right to know that this minister is incompetent, and I would not have my cabinet hide that minister's incompetence from the public under national security grounds. I believe that that minister would be removed, and I want to keep things going smoothly where we have a government that the people are proud of and trust, so I would not hide things like that from them.
Would you utilize a system of D-notices?
It depends. A D-notice in my books would only be used to stop people printing about types of munitions, what the capabilities are, where our ats and debts are. Anything to do with special forces missions would be classified under D-notice, which it is in the UK now. Mm-hmm. Capabilities, assets, agents' names, undercover agents. So there would be a D-notice put on certain elements to keep things quiet. We do not. The thing is, this is what happens in the UK. We've got far too many journalists giving out information about our weapon system and capabilities, which we are being watched by our enemies. So our enemies know exactly what it is because of our journalists. So I would have to put a D-notice on the media discussing numbers, acts, dispositions, capabilities. Things like that, I think, need to be kept as a national secret. And there'd be a D-notice on that.
Okay. Let's turn to religious tolerance now. The options are there's complete freedom of worship and expression, or there's freedom of worship unless it's provocative to others, or it's utopia's existing indigenous religion, but you allow others to be tolerated on the quiet, or there's an existing indigenous only religion and you won't tolerate other religions, and indeed there's persecution of unapproved religions, or the stance is quite simply this: you worship me and only me. What are you going to go for?
This one's dodgy ground. We'll point that out. Freedom to worship. You would have freedom to worship your God. However, with the caveat, if you're provocative towards others, then an all-out ban on your religion.
Okay, so if one member of that religion encourages the commission of some kind of criminal act against another religion, then that strike means zip.
Chimpanzee.
They're chimpanzeed, and that religion and all of its followers, it's automatically banned.
Yes.
It's that black and white, yeah?
That is black and white. So basically you can come to Utopia and you can practice your religion. We will not give you government funds to build your own places of worship. Do it yourselves. You come to Utopia, you respect who we are, you try and fit into who we are. If you try and change our society, jungle with the chimpanzees, gone.
Okay. Let's imagine that there is a religion that's going to be known as bumfluffery, okay? And the adherents of bumfluffery, for 5 years in Utopia, all they have preached is respect towards people. They invite people into the temples, which they've built themselves, to eat delicious food, and they have largely integrated into society. However, one member of bumfluffery goes off with a bit of a loose cannon on a frolic of his own and starts suggesting that, let's assume Utopia's a Protestant nation, that Protestantism is the work of Satan and that all Protestants ought to be burned alive. And so he's then preaching that as the one loose cannon from bumfluffery. They've shown for 5 years that they can behave themselves, and then you've got this one individual that has, in essence, acted out of character as to that religion. Is that the case? Naturally, he's going to be sanctioned because of what he's done, but is bumfluffery now banned?
No. What I would do is I would have a cabinet meeting. I would call in the leaders of that religion and the people at the top of that religion in to have a chat with them. We would explain our stance that they are in breach of Utopia law, and the consequences could be catastrophic. So we are going to deal with that individual. If their stance is with that individual, then we'll deal with them. But if they turn back and go, listen, this is a loose cannon, he's doing his own thing, I'll go, okay, go back to your places of worship, let them know, and we'll deal with him. I would send out special forces, gag and tape him, drop him from a helicopter into the jungle. Quite simple.
Okay, so if they basically agree with you that this person is an outlier, isn't part of their religion, you would say to them, that's okay, you can continue. We're going to pluck out the problem, chuck him from a copter, and let the chimps deal with him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's turn to the question of equality.
Ooh.
Is it the case that minorities are actively supported in utopia, that they are protected and they gain positive discrimination? Or are minorities protected by anti-discrimination legislation? Or is the stance of utopia, we promote ability, we're not interested in filling quotas? Or minority issues are ignored? Or minorities are actively persecuted? After all, they're just a pain in the arse.
Well, in utopia, everyone would be equal. It's part of, you're in our country, you're here, we're all equal. Promotion would be on ability, nothing else. Not religion, not color, not creed, not gender. It would be ability. Your ability to do the task, that is how you would be employed in the country. Anyone who goes out on their own tangent trying to bring in equality and diversity, helicopter thrown into the jungle. It's quite simple. It is like my way or the highway. I want everyone to be equal. I want everyone to be promoted on ability, through education, through knowledge and experience. Nothing else. No colors, no creed, no religion. Everyone's the same.
But surely everybody can't be equal if they're differing abilities.
That's what I mean. You're promoted on your ability. So if you haven't got the right ability and you're not as good as someone, you don't get the job. So it's one of those things. It's a bit like I want to join the Special Air Service. Okay, can I pass the escape and evasion? No, I haven't got the mindset. Well, then you're not going. You may be as fit as this guy. You may have this. You may be able to do the same job. You might be a better shot. But if you can't pass the course, the criteria, then you don't get the job. So yeah, everyone's got different ability, but everyone is treated on the same level, and it's how they move forward and achieve that goal. If you can't reach the targets, you don't get the job.
Okay, so we promote ability, we don't fill quotas.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's turn to your cabinet. We've had them mentioned a few times. There's been some cabinet meetings that have taken place already in Utopia as we've had this discussion, Trevor. As you know, it's a short form cabinet because we can't go through everybody. It would take too long. Who's your defence chief?
Richard Kemp, Colonel Richard Kemp, who's currently one of the top guys, ex-British colonel. He was actually in charge of the Balkans back in the 90s, and he is currently giving advice to the Israeli Defence Force. He's an awesome individual, and I hold him in high regard.
Well, so very much a military man being put in that position. What do you think that Colonel Kemp can bring to the party, particularly when it comes to the issue of defence? What would you see as his particular traits?
He's a calm influence. In a room full of people running around with their heads up their arse, he's a calm influence. He looks at things logically. He looks at the bigger picture, and he's able to bring countries together. I mean, whenever he first sat back, I think right now he's in Jerusalem, actually. Whenever he first sat back and looked at this conflict, he was the one that went to Israel and went, right, there needs to be a no-go zone. There needs to be humanitarian. He's the one that's pushing a lot of things to help both sides at the minute. He's trying to bridge the gap. So in a room full of people wanting to kill things, he's wanting to sort of calm everyone down. And I think that's what you need.
My memory serves me correctly. Hasn't he repeatedly spoken out about the prosecution of British soldiers arising out of the Troubles?
Massively, yeah. And he's a highly well-respected individual who I hold in high regard. He's very good at what he does. Okay,
well, that certainly seems like a sound choice for Defence Chief. Who gets a Foreign Secretary brief?
I've got it here. Douglas Murray.
Douglas Murray.
Yeah.
Tell us about Douglas Murray.
Well, if you notice recently, he's basically the British version of Dr. Jordan Peterson. Who they're very calm, but they're very filled with knowledge, and they understand the right for diplomacy, but they also understand foreign affairs in a way, and how they project it or how they come out with it. It's a way that I haven't seen before, and he can turn something which is falling apart and put it into context where we understand why it's falling apart. So I think he's very good. He's a great speaker, and people actually listen to him. I like him. He's very good.
Okay. He's an outspoken critic about immigration, isn't he?
He certainly is, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you see that will affect foreign relations?
Well, that's why I've chose him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the guy. I need him in the cabinet, because even though people are coming in having to learning about our national anthem, learning about our culture, I always need a critic in the cabinet that keeps everyone on their toes. That's why I've chosen him.
Okay, fair enough.
You don't want, let's be honest, you don't want yes men in your cabinet. You want someone with so much knowledge that people respect, but he's not going to toe the line 100%. He's not going to listen to what I say 100%. He's the guy keeping me on my toes. So he's keeping our immigration and borders, he's keeping them on their toes.
Okay. Who's the chief scientific officer?
Dr. Brian Cox.
Okay. Got lovely hair.
He's brilliant. Yeah, and you know what? He's great in a band. But I chose him because of his knowledge. His knowledge on the solar system, his knowledge on science, his knowledge on how to move forward and fix our climate and fix our country is second to none. So, I want to have the smartest brains in there, and I think he would be the perfect choice.
He would strike me as well as having quite a calming influence in the way that when he speaks, isn't it? He's quite relaxing.
Have you noticed that? Well, I think that if we look at this in a logical situation, if we were just to take how he speaks to the cabinet, everyone's listening. Everyone wants to listen to every word coming out of him, because he's a guy that can help. So when it comes to science, you couldn't move forward without him. It was either him or Mark Rober. Mark Rober, who again is an advisor to NASA and has YouTube channels, as you know, and again, he's got a calming influence, and he teaches children how to look after the planet. So Brian Cox would probably employ, when I put him in the cabinet, he would probably bring in Mark Rober, and the two of them would help change the planet for the better. And
if necessary, Brian Cox would get out the keyboard and play Rule the World as well, as is when required. So it's
exactly,
it's a win-win, isn't it? It's all happening.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, I think you alluded to who the next post holder will be earlier, but we'll find out. Who's the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Who's holding the purse strings?
Me.
Yes, I thought that was the case.
I'm in charge of it. And you have to have a really convincing case for me to give you any money, honestly. As I said, I already have a National Day of Giving to help the needy in Utopia. We have our own resources, so our roads are perfect. Not many people want to leave Australia to go on holiday because we've got everything here. We've got the beaches, we've got the jungle, which no one will go into, but we have certain things. Why would we want to leave our country? Our country's beautiful. So people want to come in. So our infrastructure would be 100%. Our roads, our bridges, we would have the best concerts in the world at the Sydney Opera House, known as the Utopia Opera House. May I recall that?
Yep. Given that with Utopia, you've repeatedly stressed that you've got everything, and what you've explained is basically you have commandeered Australia as you see as that appropriate utopia. But it occurs to me that one area where there's an issue is with petroleum and crude oil. Australia doesn't have any; it has to import it.
We would, but we have allies, don't we? We have allies and friends, and we have the gold.
Yeah.
We have the gold. They have the oil. I mean, gold.
Where's the oil going to be coming from?
Do you know what? And no one has thought of this.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be coming from just off the Falkland Islands, where the British left at their arse back in the 80s.
Right. Okay.
because there's oil. That's what the Falklands War was all about. Because let's be honest with you, the Falkland Islands is a shithole. Why would we fight there? Well, not too far off the Falkland Islands, there's meant to be trillions of gallons of oil, and we've never dug for it. We've had this oil stoppage and oil shortage, and the price went up and down, but we've never actually drilled for it off the Falkland Islands. So we would actually invest money from our gold mines to help the British drill just off the Falklands, and it would be fantastic.
So you might perhaps create a company in the way that Shell was created as an Anglo-Dutch company, that you might create an Anglo-Australian oil exploitation company, so that they both can reap the rewards.
Yeah, and us investing in the UK would again be a massive investment for the British economy, because they could start off the old Sheffield steel again, and they could build the oil rigs with Sheffield steel to put at the Falklands. The UK would thrive with us. If I was the boss of Utopia, UK would thrive.
What would you do, however, if the UK turned round and adopted a stern approach and said, "Hey, this is our oil. We're going to exploit it. We don't need you. And furthermore, all of your citizens that are working in bars in the Covent Garden area, we're going to expel them."
That's not a drama. We would just bring them back. Our citizens would thrive back in our country, and we would, truthfully, because we have so much of it, we would lower the price of gold, which would cause a market to collapse in the UK. So, I mean, it's just one thing. I've looked at this logically. If we have the majority of the gold, I think it's something like 64% of the gold in the world, then we lower our prices of the gold, because we've got too much, and it would make the markets collapse. But
the UK hasn't got much gold. Gordon Brown sold most of it.
Yes, but America does, and the UK relies a lot on the US economy. With that sort of, so our lowering the price of gold would affect it. It would affect the global economy. There'd be a lot of issues.
Okay, who's your Minister for Fun?
Bear Grylls.
Okay. Why him? Because he's not really a serious character.
No, because Bear Grylls has just handed over the reins of the Chief Scout after 15 years as the leader. He's handed over to Dwayne. Dwayne's a nice guy, but so he stood back. But he has helped globally teach young kids basic survival. Whether it's, to do with first aid, to do with how to collect water from branches and bags, how to look after animals. So to have him as he would be like, now, I wouldn't have chose Bear Grylls if Steve Irwin was still around, right?
Yeah.
Steve Irwin, awesome individual, taught the world how to be kind to animals, and he loved it. So we would adopt Bear Grylls, and we would have him as the guy who teaches children how to survive. You've got to bear in mind, a lot of Utopia is desert, barren land. So we would need someone like Bear Grylls to teach kids how to move out and how to survive in the heat and different things and shade. So he would be in charge of our fun. And there's nothing, we would have things out in the desert, climbing walls, climbing frames. We would have him doing zip lines. Kids would love it. They would thrive under him. He's very good with kids.
Some good practical fun. He lived not far from a place where I used to live. I used to see him quite regularly, actually. Nice chap.
Yeah. He is a very good chap. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the cabinet.
Yeah.
There's no women in it.
No.
What if there's criticism from the Daily Utopia about that?
Dump them in the jungle by the chimpanzees.
Okay. So a bit of press interference there then.
No. Do you know what? But you've asked me certain questions. Now, I'm going to be honest. There would be other roles, because there's only been 6 roles that you've given me at the minute, right? 6 roles, and I've chosen 6.
5 actually. Yeah.
5, and I've chosen subject matter experts for them, based on. Now, had you've given me other roles, more roles, then I can tell you now that there would definitely be women. Women are better suited for different things. For instance, those in charge of sports, right? I would have Fatima Whitbread in charge of that. So I'm just saying, so there's certain roles for certain clientele which I think are perfect. And yeah, so the roles that you've given me, I've given you the experts in them that I believe could help change and help lift utopia up.
Okay. Which country would be your major ally?
My major ally, I'm going to be honest, I went for Canada.
Why Canada?
Because I've been a couple of times and I like it.
If that's all the reason you need to give, it's fair enough.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
You're our ally because we like you. There
yes,
we are.
We don't like Justin Trudeau at the minute, but we like you. We like your people. We like your nature. We like your culture. It's good.
Okay.
It's like America, but not on steroids.
Yeah. And which country would be your main enemy?
France.
Why? Or you just say because they're French?
No, France, because they're weak-minded. They can't win at anything. They whine. They eat frogs, for fuck's sake. I mean, and they keep throwing shit at our borders, and I don't like them. There we go. I just don't like. I'm sorry if you're French, but I have to have a stance. I love going to Nice. You know, I love going to France, Bergerac, and different places. I love it. It's a beautiful country. It just needs to have English.
I'm not so sure it's accurate to say they don't win anything. They've won the most wars around the world alongside us. They're one of the most successful warring nations the world has ever known.
They don't come across like that. I mean, I'm looking at, okay, you're looking at the bigger picture. I'm looking at the fact that they come across as spoilt individuals who, for some reason, hold a grudge against the English, even though we saved them. They should all be speaking German now. If it wasn't for us and other allies, clearly, I know, here we're going to go. All right, Canada, we get Holland, Australia, we get America, everyone helped out. But it's like they hold a grudge against everyone. It's like they've turned their nose up and went, yeah, well, you know, yeah, that was then, this is now. And I just don't like their attitude. That's just simple. I don't like their attitude.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
yeah.
It's all about understanding your mindset in relation to these things. That's entirely fair. Would any particular group not be welcome in your country?
Oh, you've got me now. I don't want to get you a strike, HG. So, I mean, okay, here we go. I don't believe those from the Arab worlds are willing to take our culture seriously. Anyone that comes to our country in utopia and brings with them disdain goes to the jungle.
Understood. I know what you're driving at.
Thank you.
Yep, you don't need to elucidate it any further. I understand. Okay.
Those who persecute women and children go straight to the jungle. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Noted. Now we're going to move on to your 5 foundation policies of your government.
Yep.
Let me know policy number 1, please, Trevor.
Investment in children as early as 5. So investing in children, that would be a policy which I would push out straight away to big businesses and to the cabinet. Children are the future. We invest in them for as early as the age of 5 years of age. Before that, children are just thick as fuck. So when they get to 5, they start to really get their motor and verbal skills start to go, and that's when we start investing in them. So okay. Children.
Well, that seems sound. Policy number 2.
To teach money and finance. Teach money
and finance.
Money and finance, how to invest. That would be done as the minute you leave primary school and you go into your first year at high school, in every high school, you be taught money. You'd be taught how to look after money, the value of money, how to invest, how to make money, and the markets. So I honestly believe that if kids leaving high school had an understanding of how it all works, they wouldn't be as thick as they are.
So you're looking to create financially numerate individuals who understand how to budget, who understand how to invest, presumably to understand the value of money, how to use their money. So basically, competent financial citizens.
Yes, that's what we want in utopia, and that's why we are so envied across the globe.
Okay.
Across the flat Earth.
Across the flat Earth. Okay. That sounds like, yeah. Well, okay. Policy number 3.
Right. Now this may come. I think this should already be in law today, but it's left. It's ignored. In utopia, foreign aid.
Mm-hmm.
We would not give foreign aid to any country that we believe was involved in financial corruption. That would be one of our policies.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we sit back and we look at what's happening in, let's just say, the whole of Africa,
yeah,
and we see people in poverty, we see, I don't know, comic relief, and we see the same kids every year with the flies on their mouth and the buckets, Joanne Joe walks 6 miles every day for water. Well, fuck me. Move closer. I mean, we wouldn't give, because we see these nations on TV with their gold vehicles, their gold AKs, their palaces, but their people are starving. So we would stop that. We would cut that out. No nation receives foreign aid from us if there's financial corruption. And that way, the foreign aid that we were going, because there would be part of our GDP would go to foreign aid. So if we were giving out, I don't know, say I'll say 10 billion utopia dollars would go out every year to foreign aid. Mm-hmm. If some of those countries were involved in corruption, then that money would come back to us and it would be distributed amongst our citizens that need help and aid. That's what we would do with it. So that would be one of our policies.
All right. So there's very much a monetary and financial thread to these policies already. What about policy number 4?
Right. I had to write this one down. We would ensure that all those that have served their country in any means, not just military, in any means, and lost a family member, whether it's a husband or wife, a mum or dad, would be cared for by the state forever.
What does cared for mean?
It means that if a member of your family, whether you've served in the government as a politician, if you've served in the state, and someone in your family has lost their lives while serving utopia, then utopia would then look after your family. For instance, if you had a mortgage, we would pay your mortgage off. So our nation would pay off your mortgage, and we would give you a pension each year for all your bills and groceries. So if you're willing to sacrifice, if you've sacrificed for utopia, utopia will financially sacrifice itself for you. And we would have a wonderful nation.
So in essence, it's a particularly advantageous death in service benefit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
What if you've got somebody who drinks 8 pints a day, smokes 40 fags a day, eats lots of donuts? He's a civil servant and he keels over with a clutcher at age 42. His family still get helped out?
It would depend on the situation. For instance, what we would do is we would sit to anyone that's killed serving their country. So we have this individual who was, as you're saying, waste of space, blah, 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 blah. So we would sit down as a cabinet, we would go over things. And for instance, we would have to check, because we are the state, we would have to check his medical reports. And if he has been given warnings after warnings after warnings about his medical state, because it could lead to this, and he has not adhered to it and he's taken, then no. Unfortunately, the state, that would not be the state's fault, and we would not look after that individual. However, we would be transparent. So we would bring in his spouse or whoever it is, his family, we would sit down with him and we would do something along the line, because there would be like a bit of a gift aid. So we'd bring them in, we would sit them down, and we go, okay, this has happened. Okay, here is the information. He was warned this date, this date, this date, this date, this date, and he continued. Unfortunately, he doesn't qualify for the state benefit, but here is a gift package from the state. So basically, rather than have your mortgage paid off and a pension all your life, we would probably just give that individual a lump sum. We still wouldn't leave them in this shit. There's a lump sum, but there's nothing after this. So I think that's quite fair.
Okay, so the death in service benefit is essentially where you have died serving the nation,
Yeah.
and you're not culpable for your death.
Yes.
Okay. So somebody who was depressed and committed suicide whilst working in a state position, they would be excluded from this benefit as well.
No.
Okay.
Again, we would look at the individual's medical. We would look at the job this individual was doing at the time.
Yeah.
If this individual is doing a job which is highly stressful and it led to what this person did, then the state would look after them. So, as I said, it's a one-on-one basis, but that would qualify for the state to look after you. If you've taken your life due to stress of the job you were doing on behalf of the state, then we would look after you.
Okay. So if he took his life because his wife has left him, then too bad. Because that's nothing to do with the job.
Then if he's taken his life because his wife has left him, then that's not the fault of the government. However, we would also look at the fact that why did his wife leave him? Was he working 16 hours a day on government jobs? So you have to look at.
She was just a bit. She was just a bitch, and she ran off with a plasterer because he got muscles.
Okay, well then we would probably dump her in the jungle and.
You'd hunt her down under the bitch provisions, and she'd be off to the jungle.
And dump her in the jungle from a helicopter. Chimpanzees. And the plasterer.
And the plasterer, he goes as well.
Oh, he caused a suicide. Deserves it.
Okay. Policy number 5, please.
I have to go through my list.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said that. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Vehicles. Yes, I brought transportation into policy 5.
Okay.
And that I would have it set in law that vehicles would not be allowed on the road if they were more than 10 years old. Automatic scrap. Government system where we would give you money for your vehicle so that we try and keep the air clean around our utopia.
Okay. So my classic Morgan vehicle, I can't drive on the road.
See, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. Because you can still drive classic cars, but your classic cars would have to go in and they would have to go through a refit to do with the engine. So the body parts would stay the same, but we would add, because Utopia is the best in the world, let's be honest. So all the old classic cars would go in, ones that people love driving around with the roof down and the rest of it. And we would have some sort of converter system put in there so the old toxic fumes wouldn't come out into the atmosphere. It would be changed around. So there would be a system in place to look after those type of vehicles.
Okay. So thank you for sharing those 5 policies. Most interesting. So there we have it, valuable viewers. That's Trevor's vision of utopia, a country which essentially is taking Australia and improving upon it through the eyes of Trevor, where you're beneath the fluttering flag of the king of the jungle, whilst ensuring that a day's wages are given to those that need the assistance on the National Day of Giving, which is the 4th of April, that Trevor's Town is the capital, that you will reap what you sow. And that's certainly put into practice with many of the policies that we've heard about, that there is a competence-based cabinet. France are going to find themselves as the enemy, whilst Canada relied upon as an ally. And there's plenty of investment in the children and teaching them about money and finance. And quite simply, if you get up to any monkey business, you better not be a bitch. Otherwise, you're going off to the jungle and the chimpanzees will issue some summary justice towards you. If that's the kind of country that appeals to you, you can vote in the community section in due course to let us know that, yes, that not only is it called utopia, it's my idea of utopia. Or do you have some reservations about what Trevor has suggested? If so, you can comment further. Trevor, thank you very much for sharing your vision with me today. Very interesting indeed.
Thank you. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.